So I feel like these three songs all weave together. It's like you got Jenny. He falls in love with this chick. They like ride out and have like this beautiful romantic relationship. And then I think in Riches and Wonder, that love is like starting to like get stale a little bit. Like they don't know what they're doing. Like maybe they rushed into this or something. And then in The Mess Inside, which is actually my favorite song on the album.
The Mess Inside is good.
Yeah, it's actually my favorite song on the album. That is these people trying to like keep this like flame alive, but they can't. And I feel like it's that relationship falling apart. So since Tony's not here, I'm going to introduce the next topic. Matter of fact, do it, Tony. Do it, Tony.
This is the final album, right?
Yes.
The last and final album. All Hail Texas.
All Hail West Texas.
Ooh, All Hail West Texas. Don't see the.
It's by the Mountain Goats.
By the Mountain Goats. All right.
I should have Mateo try.
I was going to do a Tony impersonation. Hey, Mateo, so hit me up with that next album pick. I think it's All Hail West Texas by the Mountain Goats. Oh, thanks, Tony.
On the cover art, it says 14 songs about 7 people, 2 houses, a motorcycle, and a locked treatment facility for adolescent boys.
So I think that there might be a theme here, because this album definitely, like, it released in 2000, 2001, I want to say. And I started listening to it when I first left for college. And my college experience was very much like I was a stranger to strange land. I didn't have a lot of friends. I was still kind of coming out of like my awkward shell a little bit and figuring out the person I wanted to be. And this album really spoke to me. I spent a lot of time when I was in college, just walking around late at night, just chain smoking cigarettes and listening to music. That was my happy place, because I was I was in a dorm room with my roommate, and we were all right. We weren't like, we didn't hate each other, but there's not a lot of privacy in college, just when you're in that kind of situation. So walking around listening to music was my sanctuary. It was my little bit of peace that I could take with me. And this album speaks to a lot of the things that I was kind of feeling there. There's a lot of these songs are about longing. The very first song, the best ever death metal band out of Denton, is about feeling out of place. It's about like not feeling like you belong, and you find one person that you can kind of like experience this with. And I was missing my buddies that I kind of had that kind of like sanctuary with back in Austin. So there's a lot of songs that really speak to me. There's songs about heartbreak and this longing, this desire for something more, this feeling like you're a little bit incomplete.
Yes.
It's definitely. I think that this is also definitely kind of like an inaccessible album, because this is the last album the Mountain Goats recorded where it was just John Darnielle, the lead singer for the Mountain Goats, and he recorded this on a Panasonic boombox that he just put a tape in. He hit record, and it was just a man and a guitar just playing and singing, and that's the entirety of the production for this album. It's basically as lo-fi as you can get, and the songs are very layered, because he is a very interesting individual. He's incredibly bright. He works so many like literary references into his work. He's a wild person. There's an entire podcast about his music called "I Only Listen to the Mountain Goats." It's worth listening to, even if you don't care about the album itself. His brain is just so interesting. He is such a fantastically bright person. Cool thing is actually in 2020 when COVID hit, he whipped out that same boombox and he recorded another album entirely just through the boombox. Another solo out, like another him is the only member like album. But when he recorded it in 2020, he was using the same boombox, but because it was so old, he had to put it on its side, because if he had it like sitting up the normal way, it wouldn't record properly.
That's crazy.
But yeah, there's so much in this album that I just really relate to. There's this line in the first song that's when you punish a person for dreaming his dream, don't expect them to forgive or what is it? Oh man, it was right there and it just vanished. When you punish a person for dreaming his dream, don't expect him to thank you or forgive you. I like that idea, like this idea that the world kind of tries to like crush your dreams, and you just have to push through and do what you want to do. That song Jenny is just pure freedom. That might be my favorite song on the album. It's definitely up there. It's my top 2 or 3 on the album because it's just this song about total freedom. They're jumping on the back of this motorcycle and they're just taking off towards the horizon. They have no outstanding warrants for their arrest. They've got 900 cubic centimeters of raw winding power, and they're just taking off. Even God doesn't have his eyes on them.
Yeah. And now black and yellow Kawasaki.
Black and yellow Kawasaki.
That's a very memorable bar from this album. Now that you tell me that it's from like that far back, I guarantee this album has something to do with the Dewey Cox part. Like that part of the movie where Dewey Cox changes and has a phase. I think it's the first or second song, is very similar to the like structure that Dewey Cox is using. I guarantee it's because of this album. He wrote all those songs originally, and I was like, yo, this sounds so similar to what Dewey Cox did in that one phase of his life. And it's funny because he's like, oh, this people say that you sound like Bob Dylan. And he's like, why does everybody say that? How come everybody doesn't go to Bob Dylan and say, hey, you sound like Dewey Cox?
He obviously sounded exactly like Bob Dylan.
Yeah, but once I heard that, I gravitated towards the album. I'm like, all right, I'm into this. I need to know what's up. I like that with just the guitar, he creates a lot of different sounds, like themes for the music. And I'm like, he also uses different singing styles on songs that cross different genres. I'm like, this is not what he was doing a few songs back. This is kind of brand new, which that's what I picked up on when I listened to the album. I was very raw with the sound, and it was just raw, very raw. That's what I could say. And I was very surprised with how the range he had with just his voice and an instrument.
It's another very much like a young man's album. It is, it's raw emotion. Exactly. It's not polished. It's not, it's not filled out. If this were a studio album, there would be, bass guitar and drums, and it would be this very full sound, but it's just this so minimalist, and that's kind of like what I gravitate towards with it. There are not a lot of albums out there that make me feel as emotional as some of the songs in this album. Like there's, I don't know what it is that I relate to so much in some of these songs, but there are just so many themes that just hit me very, very, very close.
Yeah. I'll be honest, this was my favorite album out of the bunch. And a lot of this goes back to what you two have just said already. This album is so raw for your own good, pause, but it's great. Like, as soon as you turn it on, it reminds you of like Bob Dylan. I'm going to take it back even further. So, for instance, like there was a line in, what's it called? The best ever death metal band in Denton, where it's going upon like Hail Satan and a couple of other things. Kind of touching back to some music history, Robert Johnson was evidently the first artist to so-called sell his soul to Satan, but he got miraculous ability to play the guitar and be able to tell stories over that as well, which then turned into Bob Dylan. And I feel like this has that as well. The way that he recorded this album, Mateo, like you said, with the Panasonic player, that's like ingenious because it's literally a direct connection between man and machine. And I feel like throughout this album, like it touches points on, like you said, loneliness, spiritual warfare, wanting to go on the right path, but also being able to be free to do what you want to do. And like on one of the lines here, let me get my notes here. It says, where's it at? So the best ever death metal band out of Denton will in time both outpace and outlive you. oh yeah, and Hail Satan. You know, it's like the mentality of going out there and finding your own happiness and coming to what you want, regardless if it's going to be on the good side of faith or if it's going to be on a bad side of faith, and also dealing with all those emotions that go along with it in its raw form that he captured here. It's ingenious. This was the best one that I listened to out of everyone's. So.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. I was a little worried about my pick. I had a lot of other ones that I considered. Like my favorite band in the world might be it's probably this band called Pavement, and Wowie Zowie, Slanted and Enchanted, amazing albums, but they don't quite hit me with every song the way that this one does. There's the song Riches and Wonders, which if you listen to it, it's got layers, because you listen to it and it's like, okay, cool, this is a song about this couple in love, and they're talking about how much they treasure their relationship and how that's their riches and wonders. Their true riches and wonders is a relationship. But you look at some of the lyrics, and they talk about like how they dance like drunken sailors lost at sea out of our minds. And it's not exactly, it doesn't really strike you as like a real good kind of love line. Like that's not the drunken sailors lost at sea out of our minds is how they're describing their love. That's not exactly a happy love. I like that a lot of the songs weave together. Kind of, you can find connections between them. There's no direct reference, but you can kind of, like Jenny. You could reason that the chick Jenny from the motorcycle, she's in 2 or 3 of the other songs. Like she might be this person that they're singing about in Riches and Wonders. It might be, she could be referenced in some of these other songs. I like the idea of this interconnectivity. That's what I was kind of picking up with a lot of our albums. There's this narrative that flows through them.
Yeah, man. Go ahead.
I was going to say, on this album you chose, I told Pooja yesterday, this was probably a hard listen for me, because it's not it's definitely nothing I ever listened to before. And it seems like he's just talking and playing the guitar. That's what it is. That's what he's doing. So it takes me for a loop like this. Like yesterday, it was hard for me to listen. I'm not going to lie to you. Like I didn't really like it too much, but I played a little bit.
I was expecting it to be a hard listen for you, honestly. Like I was like, I know this is going to be very different from what Tony usually likes.
Yeah. Very different. But I listened to some of it today, and I think it was the song is Fault Lines or
yeah.
I kind of like that one in the sense that he's explaining like money and shit. To me, I was getting like, yo, money ain't everything. Like you got money, he don't got money. It's like you're the same. It's not like, and that's when I started listening to it. I'm like, all right, I kind of like this one, and I started listening a little bit to. I didn't go through the whole album, but I started going back when the second run. I started going back and picking which ones I might like. The talking is hard because it seems like he's off. He's not. I'm used to rhyming, right? You got to rhyme with the thing. So this is definitely really. It's hard for me. Like it's just like. It's like me, I just play the guitar, I'm just, yeah, she left the gas station and I'm moving along. Damn, but the dog came up me and bit me on my bun. And like that's like that's what I'm getting from it. So he's telling a story. He's not necessarily trying to rhyme, but he's just telling it off of feels, which I get. I respect that. This is all feeling very emotional and expressive.
Well, he breaks a lot of like songwriting things too, right? Like there's not exactly choruses in most of these songs. There's not. Yeah, it's not following that verse chorus like format that you're used to. Like it's
different for sure.
He breaks a lot of rules in the way that like a young man is willing to break a lot of rules when they're doing things, because fuck tradition, right? Like, well, I'm gonna do my own thing.
I'm all about that. I like it. Fuck it. That's that. And I kind of respect it though. Like it's definitely not my taste of music, but I respect it because I'm making it. I'm doing it how I want to do it. Fuck what you think. Like it, you don't like it. I'm gonna play it, and that's commendable. I'm not.
And that's where the best music comes from, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna touch base too. Sorry to interrupt, but going back towards the beginning of this album as well, I just found in my notes here that I got another line that stood out to me big time. So I want to say I believe this is from Best Death Metal Band in Denton, but he goes and he says, "Hey, I got some Clorox that'll get that heart off your sleeve." That was deep. like, yeah, you think you got the balls to do something, but there's always something in life that will make you second guess of some sort. But I like that a lot. Sorry, I just wanted to point that out.
No, you good. That's great.
Now, so before I get into what I liked about the album, because I'm a negative Nancy, I hated this album the first time I listened to it, and it felt like it really challenged me because I'm like how could I hate something that somebody else loves, right? So I'm like, maybe I need to reframe the way I'm listening to this, and some backstory. To listen to all this music, right? I'm a busybody, right? I constantly have to be doing something. So I was playing Construction Simulator and I was playing Grass Mowing Simulator. I was cutting grass
the fuck
and
is
just
wrong with
listening to
this guy?
music because it was like, all right, I need to keep myself occupied so I could just listen to the music, right? So that's kind of what I was doing while I re-listened to all these albums. And for this album in particular, it wasn't the way. And I think that's why maybe halfway through I was like, man, all these songs just sound the same, and like, it kind of hit me like something ain't clicking for me. So then after I finished the album, I had like a couple songs that I liked, but for the most part, I didn't like the album. So I started listening to the Mountain Goats podcast, which the first season of the podcast covers this first album. So I listened to like 3 or 4 episodes, which was somewhat enlightening. And also somewhat perplexing because it basically, they have some fans of the podcast, of the album come on and just talk about it. And they love it so much. And I'm just like, how come I didn't feel this way? Like, so this morning, I woke up, I took a shower, I laid back in my bed. My daughter was there, my wife was there. And I just put the song on my phone and I just put it like right on my shoulder, like by my ear. And I just laid in the bed and did nothing else. And I'm like, all right, musically, I'm not a fan of the album. Like I like the one man and a guitar gets tiring, especially when the vibe of a lot of songs is like kind of like a campfire song. It's just like a lot of strumming and a lot of chords. And that's about it. Like, but this time I'm like, all right, let me like really like listen to all the words. And I didn't finish the whole album. I got like, I mean, I missed like the last 5 songs. So I listened to like 12 songs this morning. And I really started to enjoy it, believe it or not. And I already spoke to Dory and Tony about this. I'm like, yo, how do y'all feel about this album? Like, this shit's crazy. Like, this shit just sounds the same to me. Like, I expressed that I didn't like it, so I figured they'd be a little surprised. But I kind of like the album now. Like, so the songs I liked originally were the best ever death metal band in Denton. That song is fucking awesome.
That song's good.
And then Blues in Dallas was cool.
Blues in Dallas is weird.
I love it. One, it reminds me of Earthbound, which is weird. So there is a weird vibe to it, like that I was like, okay, something about this is weird. But it was also refreshing because all the songs are just one man and a guitar, and this opens with like a synth or a guitar. I don't even know what instrument that is. Maybe it's a piano.
I think it might be. I think it might be a toy piano, but I'm not positive. I think it might be a toy piano. It sounds
weird. Like it has like an air, like some kind of like wind aspect to it, but it feels like a piano. I don't know. But so that was the reason that song in particular like stood out to me. I was like, oh, this song is different, and it just sort of like I enjoyed it for that reason. But like in re-listening to it, like you were saying just a second ago, Matteo, I feel like Jenny is something that like clicked for me this morning as I was listening to it. I feel like these 3 songs all weave together. It's like you got Jenny, he falls in love with this chick, they like ride out and have like this beautiful romantic relationship. And then I think in Riches and Wonder, that love is like starting to like get stale a little bit. Like they don't know what they're doing. Like maybe they rushed into this or something. And then in The Mess Inside, which is actually my favorite song on the album.
The Mess Inside is good.
Yeah, it's actually my favorite song on the album. That is these people trying to like keep this like flame alive, but they can't. And I feel like it's that relationship falling apart. Like they talk about going to the Bahamas, they dance to every single fucking song, but they're just still not in love. Like they're trying to
They tried to fight the creeping sense of dread with temporal things. That's one of my favorite lines on the fucking album.
Exactly, right?
That's deep.
Dancing with somebody feels good right now. It's not gonna make you feel in love with the person forever. I enjoyed that some of the songs sort of weave together, and then just in listening to the words is very deep. You could tell this is somebody that either has a lot of personal experiences with like heartbreak and failure, or knows and seen a lot of people go through this, because the way that he goes about telling these stories, it feels too raw and personal to not be. You know what I mean? It's hard to imagine that this person just like invented this like out of thin air, you know?
So the way that I re-experienced this album when I was listening doing my homework is I seriously just went on a drive. I went on a long drive on this mostly empty highway out here in Austin, and I put this album on. I also put on the Kid Cudi one. The Kid Cudi one is also a good like empty highway album.
Yes. He was telling me that solo dolo.
Solo dolo.
So let me ask you guys this Mountain Goats album, I do agree with you, Pucho. It is a little bit long in the tooth, but what would make it perfect? Do you think if it was 8-9 tracks, you think that'd be it?
If it was less songs, I would love it. I'd like it way more, because there's some songs, not to say that it doesn't belong, because I mean, it's hard to tell the artist what belongs in their art. You know what I'm saying? Like, who am I to say that? But for me, an album that sounds so similar, it's hard for it to be an hour long. Like, it's like, shit, this is just too long. Like, if it was like in the 39-minute range and you cut some like, you know, you picked, because he kind of goes over a few themes. Like, there's themes. Overall, I feel like the theme is like failure, like, is what I think it's all about. It's like you're the best death metal band in Denton. It's like, what accomplishment is that? Like, you're a failure. Like, the guy with a lot of money that can't buy his happiness, he's failing. The relationship that maybe they wrote out and they're happy now, but it don't work out. You're still failing. Like
the star running back that broke his leg in his junior year and then started selling acid.
Right.
What?
Yeah, the second track on the album. He's the star running back. It's a really sad story. The guy's like the cool guy in high school. He blows his knee out, and then he expands his like the people he associates with from just the jocks to other people, and he realizes, oh, there's beauty in everybody. But then also to live, he was selling drugs, so he got bagged selling acid, and he goes to jail. You know. So he's like, even in the happiness, there's a sad like ending there. So sorry, what I was getting at was like, overall, the theme of all of this is like, to me, it feels like failure, and some of the beauty in failure, that there's still beautiful things. Like, even this terrible relationship that didn't work out, you still got a song and a half of like happiness. Like, so it's like, you know, it's not to not try. It's just whatever. It just happens to be about failure. I feel like find the songs that fit that core concept more specifically and start cutting out what you can, unfortunately. Like, and that sucks, because it's like, again, the guy made 20 songs for it to be 20 songs. Like, but for me, I think that would make it better, just a shorter album.
Yeah,
but
that's well said. I think that's kind of touching back to what I was saying earlier about the Hail Satan blips that you get throughout this whole album. You kind of have to go on that path of destruction in order to figure out what's, you know, good for you and to make beauty out of it. So that's well said. So appreciate that.
My daughter was jamming out to the best ever death metal band. She was going ham. She was going like this. Like, she was like strumming. It was hilarious, dude. I was like, I've never seen her do this. So I was like, all right, maybe this is even before I started enjoying the music. So I'm like, if my 2-year-old gets it, like, maybe I gotta try harder. Like, and then when he started going, Hail Satan, my wife's like, take this shit off. But it's interesting to learn the guy's like super Christian.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the podcast, he was talking about like what would be more ironic than a super Christian guy making a song about a goth kid, because I think he used to be goth and things like that.
He's all over the place. I think he went to like seminary school at some point too,
Damn.
and he's had some addiction issues. Like he is an interesting guy.
Why the mountain goat or mountain goats? Like why that name?
It's intriguing.
I have never looked into like the history of the name. I don't know if any of the podcasts or various interviews that I've read have ever dove into it.
I mean, for me, like, I wouldn't mind listening to it again if it. I guess I just need something more than just the guitar, like maybe some drums or just some other musical instrument. Because I mean, I don't mind someone's storytelling. It's a banjo and him pretty much, and it's just like, like damn. Like it's hard. I mean, like I said, Fault Lines was the only one I can kind of like grasp, and I wasn't hating it. I kind of understood what he was saying there, but for the most part, I mean, yeah, it's not first time listening to it. Yeah, it was hard. I was in traffic, getting out of work, and it was just like fuck this shit. But you know, like I said, I went back and listened to it a little bit this morning, and I was like, okay, he's saying something here. There's some substance behind this. So yeah, it's definitely, it needs playthroughs. I'm not gonna lie. Like for me, I ain't gonna gravitate to normal like stuff like that. But it was definitely interesting for me to listen. Like your pick was the more like, why did Mateo pick this? Why does he like this?
Mm-hmm.
And it intrigued me more that way than more of just like, I don't hate it anymore. It just is more intriguing. It's like a curiosity for the cat. You know what I mean? As long as I don't die from it.
For me, it was definitely the most challenging listen out of the bunch, with Kid Cudi and Illmatic being a bit easier, especially for me. That Illmatic is his. I love this album. I've already listened to it. I've already dissected it. It's like, so the not only is the Mountain Goats a brand new band I've never heard of, is a brand new album, but the album itself is polarizing to me. Like it's almost meant to be off-putting.
I think so. I think it was a very like targeted choice on his behalf. I mean, it's obvious got to be a targeted choice to like specifically be like, you know what, this isn't even my first album, but I'm going to record this one with just a fucking boombox and my guitar. That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It's gonna sound like shit, and I know it's gonna sound like shit, and that's gonna be part of the artistry I'm trying to create. And it's like,
you can straight up hear like the tape whine, like
whining.
the wheel moving in some of the songs. It's crazy.
That's what Dewey's like. I'm just sick of this fucking tape.
The droning. I'm like, this droning in the background. I'm like, this shit is killing me.
It's just, What's interesting is when they on the podcast he mentions like when they went to go release this digital, because they had the tapes he recorded and they pressed CDs out of them. But when they went to go make it digital, they needed the original tapes again. But the tapes were old, but they were like over a decade old or something. So they were like, when they play it, there's just chunks of music missing because the tapes were kind of dying. And they were kind of talking about like, I don't know if you guys ever heard of like goodbye art or something like that. Like art, like someone will make like a mural out of matches and then burn it. So the art only exists for like that moment and then it's gone. And it was a thing that he was discussing, that he thought it was beautiful but also depressing. And then he remembered that the tapes he gave the people weren't even original. They were copies from these two big reels he had in the house. So then he found those and then they were able to make the digital version. But he was like, damn, my music is going to be lost. Like it's only a CD and it's going to be gone forever. Like, and I thought that was interesting too.
Yeah, the dude is clever as hell. He is probably my favorite musician to hear like talk about like the art and the artistry and the thought process and the writing of music. He is just incredibly bright. Shout out to I Only Listen to the Mountain Goats podcast, and also shout out to Welcome to Night Vale, because the guy that worked on I Only Listen to the Mountain Goats is the guy behind Welcome to Night Vale, which is one of the best like story format audio podcasts out there.
Very nice.
Yeah. As mentioned earlier, this album was my favorite out of the ball. 5 out of 5 for me. And Kid Cudi, Man in the Moon, that's another 5 out of 5 for me as well. But kind of touching base to everybody's albums that were offered here today. Well, besides Kid Cudi, you know, I would have never seeked these albums out if it wasn't for you guys. So one, I really appreciate you bringing them up because now that adds to my library, and now I get to venture down the path of seeing what else there is to offer with this. So hopefully we get to do this again. So
yeah,
absolutely.
This was fun. I liked experiencing everyone's music. I think that I purposely chose a pick that was kind of hard to digest. It's definitely a pick that's very personal to me. But I was interested to see what the feedback was going to be. I was interested about Tony and Doey in particular, like their takes on it.
You could probably already imagine what my take was. After you probably like, this Tony's gonna be like, "What the fuck is this shit?" Which it was.
What the fuck is this mountain dick?
I listened to the first song, and I said, "What is this?" Like literally in that voice. What is that?
Bro, it was rough. Like for anybody who watched the part or listened to it right now, you're gonna say the same thing. But give something a second try. You just never know.
Absolutely.
I think that we'll probably put out a list of the albums that we put before we put the episode out, just in case anyone wants to, pre-game and listen to the albums.
I think
so they know
that'd be really cool.
the hell we're talking about.
Yep.
Not for sure. And to Fox's point, I think we should absolutely do this again. And obviously, it won't be the most impactful album the next time because we already used up our most impactful. But there's other music that have touched us over time. And I kind of enjoy the
reminiscing.
It was honestly, it's a little too much homework, to be honest, listening to 5 albums and editing and going to work and doing all those things. But I think it's kind of beautiful because like it's sometimes it's a little hard to verbalize like your feelings and your life and all that type of stuff. And I feel like sharing music, sharing food, sharing experiences with one another is one of those ways where you could express yourself non-verbally. And I feel like it was a cool experience to kind of listen to what other people enjoyed, and through that listening is like I'm learning something about these people that I allegedly know, but I'm learning new things about them. So.
Yeah. And ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't done so already, hit that fucking subscribe button. Follow, like us, share us with your friends, your family. I don't care who it is, your cat, your dog, the birds. I don't care. Share us, like us. We also got my boy Retro Fox here. Follow him at Retro Fox Live on Twitter. Huge shout out for him. I appreciate him coming on the show. Keep
an eye on his Twitter. He's got some big things I think that he's gonna be coming out with here eventually.
Yep. Thank you. Changing. He's changing a lot.
Absolutely. But we are gonna put I will say this, we are gonna put an album out on Twitter here. It's June? So August 1st.
Ooh. Do we get exclusive first dish on the review?
I was going to say the One Up Podcast is more than willing to do that first review for you.
All right, yeah. I'll send it over to you guys. It's halfway done right now, so we're good.
Nice. All right. CEO talk. Your boys just got to wait. Let the CEOs here do the work and all that, all right? Look at Pucho's face. Pucho hates all
it's
CEO
the irony of the stupidity of the comment. We got to just everybody sit and wait. The guy who does all the social media, the guy who does all the editing, the guy who's doing our write-ups, editing everybody sit and wait while the CEO does the real work. What? It's the irony of that statement is why I made that face. I'm like, if you want to read the CEO talks, I don't care. Do it. Your dick seems to grow 5 inches every time. So I'm cool with that. I want your dick to be nice and long and girthy, and I want you to be happy with it. But it's like when you pair it with stupid comments, I gotta make a face.
That's why I do it. That shit's hilarious to me, man. But
my cousin's husband hits me up the other day and was like, "Yo, so who actually owns the podcast?"
Me, I do. That's who
so
owns it.
So you being the CEO is not believable to people, Tony.
That's fine. They don't gotta believe
make it more realistic.
I sign it, I write it, and I cash it. I've just paid for Pucho's vacation. What do you guys want from me?
Some would say I went to a third world country on Tony's dime.
Nah, but it's all jokes. It's all fun. But yeah, if you guys, like I said, don't forget, subscribe, shout us out, comment if you guys liked it. If you like banjo music and you think I'm bugging out for my review on it, let me know. I'm fine with it. I'm here for that. But as always, people. Oh, go ahead, Mateo.
Tony, next time you come to Austin, we're taking a long highway drive with the Mountain Goats playing. You're gonna be like, "Oh fuck, now I get it."
Yeah, I'm with it. I'm with it.
I love this mountain cock.
this mountain cock. I wanna go. Where the? I'm gonna fucking go. Where's the go?
We're gonna drive. We're gonna drive
that's a
out to
joke.
another We're gonna drive out on a long highway to another VFW to drink at.
Oh shit.
Oh my god.
Oh shit. Nah, I'm good off that. He's trying to get me killed. But nah, as
My
always,
first
people.
good bar experience was at a VFW. I'd say a friend of a friend. She was a bartender at the VFW, and she took us there after hours when all the racists were gone, and we just drank a
had a
lot
good
of
time.
free booze. It was really
And
fun.
a friend of a friend had sex with a friend behind the bar.
That's
we rolled
true.
up. We rolled up on them, and it was, we were looking at them.
I need that sound effects again, though.
I saw my friend's penis that night. I wasn't happy about that.
That's a big night.
Oh.
Yeah, it was
Damn.
cool.
As always, people, go one up yourself. Behind the bar, it don't matter.
Or the bartender.
Or the bartenders. Peace.
Peace.
Peace out.
Later, guys.